Top 10 fastest aircrafts in the world. Number 10, Sukhoi Su27. Top speed, 1,804 miles per hour. Max flight distance, 2,193 miles with internal fuel. Its full speed of 2.35 Mach carries it with a twin engine and the first fly-by-wire control system ever on a Russian jet to the very weakest of Soviet craftsmanship. Soviets built it to counter the new American 3.5 Gen fighters like the F15 Eagle for air superiority. It is equipped with a 30mm gun and 10 internal turrets capable of holding both air-to-air, heat-seeking, short, and medium-range rockets. It has many distinct variations for all its achievements and popularity. Some of them, like Sukhoi Su27 5th-generation jet fighter, is even today top modern, 35 years after the flanker's first plane, 1977. Number 9, McDonnell Douglas F15 Eagle. Top speed, 1,875 miles per hour. Max flight distance, 2,991 miles with internal fuel. Even today, most people consider F-15 being one of the most successful fighter jets ever created and is still in service with the U.S. Air Force. The twin-engine and thrust-to-weight ratio of the Eagle of 1:1 can propel the plane of 18,000 kilograms to over 2.5 times the sound speed. Developed in 1976 and will stay a part of the Air Force until 2025. Nearly 1,200 F-15s were built and exported to Japan, Saudi Arabia, and Israel, among others. U.S. Air Force current plan is to continue producing them until 2019. It was first designed as an air superiority aircraft but was later built as an air-to-ground variant, the F-15E Strike Eagle. The F-15 can carry on its 11 hardpoints a range of Sparrow, Sidewinder 120 AMRAAM, crash missiles. Together with its 20mm M61A1 Vulcan gun and fastest speed, it is no surprise that this fighter jet has over 100+ confirmed aerial combat victories. Number 8, General Dynamics F111. Top speed, 1,918.17 miles per hour. According to Situations, this aircraft has been used as an interdictor, a fighter bomber and a strategic bomber. Even though it can do multiple roles in warfare, the main reason this aircraft is on our list is because the speed it can achieve. It was first commissioned by the US in the 1960s. Then by early 1970s, the Royal Australian Air Force also ordered F111s. Number 7, Mikoyan MiG31 BSM. Top speed, 1,957 miles per hour. Max flight distance, 4,287 miles with internal fuel. The Mikoyan designed the plane as a replacement for the earlier MiG-25 Foxbat. The MiG-31 is based on and shares design elements with its predecessor MiG-25 and MiG-29. MiG-31 distinguishes itself as one of the world's fastest planes before and even now. It can fly at high altitudes at high speeds up to 2.83 Mach, 2,171.372 miles per hour. Its D-30 F6 jet engines, each rated at a thrust of 152 knots, allow the speed of Mach 1.23, 932 miles per hour, at low altitude. The MiG-31 was one of the first planes with a phased array radar and as of 2013 was one of 2 fighter jets in the world capable of freely firing air-to-air long-range missiles. Also, it was the first operational fighter in the world with the Zaslon S-800, a passive electronically scanned array radar, PESA. Its maximum reach against fighter targets is about 200 kilometers, and it can track up to 10 objectives and strike 4 of them simultaneously with its Vimpel R-33 rockets. The aircraft was in production from 1975. The Russian Air Force and Kazakhstan Air Force are still using MiG-31 and will remain in service until or beyond 2030. Number 6, North American XF108 Raptor. Top speed, 1,990 miles per hour. Max flight distance, 4,287 miles with internal fuel. The North American XF108 Raptor was a long-range, high-speed interceptor plane designed by North American Aviation to protect the US from supersonic fast Soviet bombers. The aircraft would have moved at speeds around Mach 3, 3,200 km per hour, 2,000 miles per hour, with an unrefueled combat radius of over 1,000 nautical miles, 1,200 miles. With radar and rockets providing engagement capabilities of up to 100 miles, 160 kilometers, against targets of bomber size. U.S. Air Force continued to develop the F-108 radar and missiles, and eventually, the system was used in the Lockheed YF12 project. Number 5 Bell X2. Top speed, 2,094 miles per hour. The Starbuster was an American research fastest plane flying for the first time in 1955 and retired in 1956. It was a part of the X2 program, and so its investigation area was to see how planes behaved at altitudes greater than Mach 2.0 when traveling. With no weapons like the missile launch system, it featured a backswept wing that created it to have a little air resistance and prepared to meet Mach 3.196's amazing velocity in 1956. Accidentally, the pilot made a sharp turn soon after he reached very high speed, and then it crashed out of control. He could not regain aircraft power and bailed out. Unfortunately, the rescue shuttle's tiny parachute was only launched, and he struck the floor too fast. The Starbuster program finished this deadly collision. Number 4 Mikoyan MiG25. Top speed, 2,170 miles per hour. Max flight distance, 1,650 miles with internal fuel. This Soviet aircraft constructed was among the fastest fighter jet in USSR. It was introduced to join the flight to attack American fighter planes during the Cold War, such as the SR71 Blackbird and high slow-moving surveillance aircraft. Since they intended it to attack SR71, excessive speed was the need, hence its maximum capacity of Mach 3.2. Unlike the Blackbird, the Foxbat contained 4 air-to-air missiles that made it an interceptor rather than a plane of surveillance. It has never fired down a Blackbird, but it has had many other effective fighting missions, for example in the conflict between Iran and Iraq. Between 1964 and 1984, over 1,100 Foxbats were built, but today it restricts the use, with Russia, Syria, Algeria, and Turkmenistan being the only consumers. The MiG-25 was also MiGFlug's fastest plane ever provided for fun flights. They used it primarily for space edge missions. Number 3 Lockheed YF12. Top speed, 2,275 miles per hour. Max flight distance, 3,000 miles with internal fuel. The Lockheed YF12 was an American prototype interceptor aircraft assessed in the 1960s by the U.S. Air Force. YF12 just appeared like the Blackbird SR71, which has 3 air-to-air missiles. It is because they modeled the SR71 on the YF12 and because they both had the same designer, Clarence Johnson, Kelly. It is the biggest, heaviest, and fastest interceptor plane in the world to date. But has also set and maintained speed records for the world's fastest plane, at an altitude of over 2,000 miles per hour, 3,200 kilometers per hour, and over 80,000 feet, 24,000 m, later surpassed by SR71 Blackbird. Number 2, Lockheed State Route 71 Blackbird. Top speed, 2,193 miles per hour. Max flight distance, 3,250 miles with internal fuel. Both U.S. Air Force and NASA used SR71 Blackbird after its inception in 1966. By collaboration, they built 32 Blackbirds and used it for reconnaissance and experimental research. It showcased stealth technology. Even if enemy fighter planes detected, this plane was able to escape easily because of its amazing speed. It could easily surpass the interceptors or surface-to-air missiles launched towards it. Blackbird was so fast that there was no time for air in front of it to glide, thus increasing pressure near its nose, which increased its internal temperature by too much friction. The fighter jet's temperature would sometimes reach very high, which expanded the metal, so it had to be built by small parts. Because of this, when standing still, the state Route 71 spilled oil. The SR71 was the fastest and highest flying operational manned military plane in the world during its entire career. This has to be the pinnacle of our fastest plane in the world list. Number 1 X15. Top speed, 4,520 miles per hour. Max flight distance, 280 miles with internal fuel. As part of the X-plane series of experimental aircraft, the North American X15 was a hypersonic rocket-powered plane operated by U.S. Air Force and NASA. For the fastest plane which carried a human, this rocket jet has the current world record. Its top speed was Mach 6.70, about 7,200 km per hour, which is achieved with a pilot qualified as an astronaut William J. Chevalier on October 3, 1967. They included a big wedge tail for stabilizing the aircraft at these super high altitudes. But the downside of this was at the lower altitude the drag from such a tail was enormous. A B-52 had to carry it to an altitude of approximately 14,000 meters before leaving it, at which it ignited its own engines. Just imagine sitting in a 15 long rocket and then being released. It must have been an amazing thrill. They used X-15 at such extreme speeds, that's why it didn't use traditional steering methods, using slide over a fin, but used rocket thrusters instead. These enabled elevations of over 100 kilometers to be reached, which was one of its world records. X-15 overall has these 3 world records. 1. It was the first operational space plane. 2. It got to a height of over 100 kilometers. 3. It flew over 6 times the speed of sound, Mach 6.70. North American X-15 is still the fastest plane in the world ever built with a top speed of 4,520 miles per hour.